Hey guys, this is a recreation project I have made in order to recreate two shots from the movie called Strange World uh, by Disney, and here's how the shots looks like. So they are not clearly one-to-one, but I wanted to understand just a little bit, at least a little bit, and get the look, to get the closest look I can at the moment. This video is pretty much to share my experience, what I have learned, and how I did it. And if you want to get the zip file, it is located on my Patreon and the $20 tier, which is only dedicated to the project like this one, to the shot recreation projects, from the start to finish, from the modeling, texturing, lightning, rendering, and everything in between. So what about this project itself? This project will be split into three parts: modeling, then simulation, volume simulation, and the final one will be where we are currently located, which is a stage context. It will contain materials, lighting, and rendering. So this is how the render looks like, and if we go to the Houdini GL, this is how it looks like. So yeah, and the setup is like very simple one. Yeah, so we'll come back to this in the third part of this video series, of this project series. And right now we'll dive into object context. And object context itself contains not so big. It contains a ship itself, Spaceship, which is downloaded from Sketchfab. It has a link. I will show you the link. And then we have four geometry nodes, which contains basically this geometry, which you can see on this screenshot. And then the simulation, only one simulation is here. And then this is just for rendering, and this nodes will be used in these nodes will be referenced in the Solaris. To be clear, this is how they're referenced, using SOP import under the stage context. So here I have a to-do list. This is just my preference. I recently discovered for myself to make things a little bit more structured and keep a track on what is going on, what I've done, and what should be done next. Yeah, just to clarify what this means. Yeah, so so this part of the video will be only about this part, which is basically geometry only. So what about the Spaceship? Spaceship itself is downloaded from the Sketchfab, which you can find under this link. And this portion is a curve to follow. So before I was animating ship using transform SOP, but after that I decided to use a curve to animate it. And the way I've done it is I used a curve SOP, which has 3 points. Then I resample it and smooth it out and orient it along the curve. This is so the ship would orient properly. And the curve SOP is used to animate the single point. So by default it will be like a lot of points here, and in the curve SOP on the cut I have a disabled keep inside and used an extract whatever it is. So by the end you have a single point, and if you can see and if you preview a line, it follows it nicely. And the way it follows by using the play button is because I have used a time attribute, and I have multiplied it by 1.2, and why I have multiplied it is because I want to, but just to basically have an option to speed up the ship speed. So if I increase it to 45, it will be like super fast. to 2, it will be a lot faster. And I can divide it by 2, so it will go slower. So you get the idea. And then I used the copy to point, so now on this point, ship is being copied. Well, yeah. And then I have used a transform SOP, and this is basically to make a ship a little bit more shakier, I would say. So if you preview it like this, it gives a little bit of shakiness. And the way I have done it is I right click on the rotation only, and then under motion effects, I have clicked on this noise. And then when you click on the add noise, you will get this channel operators, as far as I know, chops, as far as I know it's called, and it's added by default. And this is the noise controller itself, this one. And this, yeah. So if you want to, well, not this one. Yeah, this one. And if you want to make this noise a lot higher, you can increase the harmonics. So you can play around with it a lot. And this is a procedural way of creating noises to the motion noises, which is really, really, really cool, I would say. But it's quite confusing, but it's powerful. So yeah. And then I have computed velocity for the ship. And then I have created 2 groups, and this is not really necessary. It could be avoided, but I decided to add additional light sources to the ship, because it doesn't have any lights to place. I mean not to place, but to create geometry lights from something out of the geometry, because it doesn't have any lights. So yeah, so I decided to create my own. And the way I have done it is just I created a point group, and I have selected just these 4 points, and then I have called them a small lights and then a big lights, which is basically the same thing, but I have selected points on the top of the ship manually. And then I have used a copy to points to copy geometry, which is basically a sphere, clipped sphere, and then rotate it. And then I have used the polyfill to fill the end cap. The same thing is done for the second. And if we merge everything together, it should look like something like this. So this will become light sources. And that's pretty much it for the ship. Now to the bubble ground, which is these bubbles. This is how I tried to create this bubble ground. This is my experiments, which I will not go through. If you want to, like, it's not really good looking stuff, so not really worth looking at. So I have created a grid with a lot of rows and columns, then I scattered points, and then I randomized a p-scale, and then I have created a sphere and copied it to the grid. And why I have done it is because to mask those areas where spheres is being copied into. And so if I preview the mask, this is how it looks like. And let me disable it. and I need this mask, which is red. There, the bubbles will appear. So meaning, in the distance geometry node, I have checked an output mask, which is called mask, and you can control the radius of it and also remap it, whatever, however you would like. And then I have used a soft peak, which you can find a lot more information about from this forum topic on SideFX. And by default, it will be the surface. I have changed it to attribute, and the distance attribute is called mask, which is basically outputted by this distance from geometry node. And the distance is controlled by the controller, which is not previewing it now. Oh, here it is. So if you disable preview mask, this is what the soft peak does. It just creates soft peaks. Well, and then I smooth it out, and I match size for whatever reason, which is not really needed. And then I generated UVs just in case I was not sure if I need them. And that's basically how the setup was created. And we can control it from this null, which is a controller. And I have also created this HDA, which basically does the same thing. Just if I need to use this stuff later. So yes, this is pretty much for this like bubble round looking kind of thing. Yeah. And now let's go through these two big blobs, as I call them. So this is how it looks like. And this is to kind of replicate this portion and this portion, this purple and red stuff. It's not one-to-one, as I said, but I created my whole thing. So everything starts with a sphere in this case. Then I have created edges, only edges, by these values, using these values. And the reason I created, I have selected edges is because I want to only select like these vertical edges. And the way I have done it is by using a group by range node, which you can control how many edges you would like to include. This was a trial and error, basically. Yeah. So this is how you do it, and this is the output, and this is the output group name will be. So I'm selecting them every 8 line, every 8 edge, horizontal edge, and you need to provide a base group, which is this group. And by the way, $S stands for the node name. So whatever I type here will be a group name. So now it's this name. And then I have used a soft peak also by using this group. And then I have used a switch for some reason, which is not really needed. And here are the changes I have made. Normals, subdivision, clip, bottom, auto UVs, UV layout just in case. Oops, my bad. And output it. And pretty much the same thing goes for the second one. And this is for this purple looking thing. I have pulling it out, the top portion. Polybevel it. And in the Boolean swap, I have extracted an IBSeams group, which I have used in polybevel group, or polybevel swap here. And then I have clicked the bottom portion, scale up, auto UVs, UV layout just in case, and that's pretty much it. And now to the final portion of the geometry nodes here. This is the Dupes, which I call them. So basically, it spawns curves from the bottom grid to the top grid to create this like effect. And here's what I mean. And you can control it this way. So how I done it? So we have a bottom grid and the top grid, and then I have used the mountain swap to randomize their surface, and then I merge them together. And then I'm creating an ISO offset, which basically creates a volume. And then after creating volume, we can create points from volume using point from volume swap. So it generates points even throughout the whole volume. And I have just play around with this jitter scale, point separation, and jitter seed, and that's pretty much it. So by default it will look something like this, and it looks very repetitive, so I changed it a little bit. And then I'm creating two groups, which basically controls the look of the curves. So I'm creating a bounding box for the top grid, and I'm using a bounding box with this particular size, and then I'm also using a and then I'm including points by random chance, because by default it will keep them all, and I want to give it some additional randomness. And pretty much the same thing goes to the bottom portion. The process is the same, and here I can pick percent value which determines a percentage of point being added to the group. So the higher chance will be that the point will be in the group, and the lower means the opposite. So 10%. And then I'm using this node to connect. I won't be pronouncing it, so this is a node. And I'm sorry. And by default it will be like so. And I have changed it to adjacent. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Adjacent points. And then you can increase or decrease the search radius. So basically it's like shortest path, but something different. I don't know the behind under the hood logic, so yeah, I just found this node, and that's pretty much it, at least for now. And max separation, I'm not sure what it does. Yeah, whatever. And then I'm smoothing it out. It looks like already a spider web kind of looking thing. Interesting. And then I have used shortest path by selecting this group and this group, top and bottom groups. And by default it will search from each start to any end. I have changed it to from any start to each end, and you can play around with this. And this is what the output looks like. And if I change this value, or maybe a global seed, it will be different every time. And also, if I change the points separation to a lot higher, there will be a lot more curves. This looks like a tree or something. Could be like so, could be like so, or it could be like so. Very interesting. So yeah, and then I'm resampling it, and I will change it to previous value, something like this. And then I'm smoothing it out, and I'm sweeping it, and using a surface shape as a round tube, because by default it will be nothing. It will be a little different what we're expecting. And then also I am computing UVs just in case, and you can play around with the radius. And by default it also will be without a net cap. And then I'm using VDB for polygons just to smooth everything out and to remove intersections. Like here I'm removing a name attribute, and if you merge everything together, it looks something like this. So here's, you have to play around with it basically. So this is the main idea for the Dupes, and this is how I have done it. It could be done better, obviously, but this is how I managed to figure it out. Yeah. So this is the end of the video where we covered geometry only. In the next video we will cover simulation itself. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you liked it. Hope you see you in the next video. Have a great day.